Hello, everyone. My name is Sarafi, and I am happy to meet you all. Okay, so the reason that I'm recording this video today is because I had a game during the World Championship Series preliminaries, which I thought really emphasized the importance of experience over raw power. A lot of people tend to focus on the usefulness and the power of certain cards, which is definitely a problem in Yu-Gi-Oh! And in Duel Links. But if you are skilled with a deck, then that creates a whole different set of circumstances, and you can actually overcome a power difference through skill, or if your opponent has poor skill, then the power of their cards might not necessarily matter. I want to show you guys that right now. So let's take a look at this replay. So this is a Speedroid mirror match from DL 17. And my opponent gets to go first. Alright, so my opponent standard plays, gets Terra Top, going to search Car Turbo, which is an interesting choice, but he uses it quite well. Takatama board, grab Fukimadoshi Piper, and then use that to get a free Win the Wind Charmer, Win the Wind Channeler, sorry, which he can then search WO, sure. Alright, Synchro Summon into Clearwing Synchro Dragon. Gotta skip the animation real quick. There we go. Alright, and then he's going to get his free Crystal Wing. Nothing surprising here. But his next play is to summon Double Yo-Yo and use it to revive Terra Top. Or not Terra Top, Red-Eye Dice. Go into Hagoida. And then he gets his Car Turbo out. And he's going to use his skill to actually change Hagoida back into Clearwing Synchro Dragon before reviving it with its own effect. It can revive itself if you have a Speedroid tuner. And make Stardust Dragon. Whew, okay. Alright, so this is quite the board. We've got Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon, which has a monster negate. We have Stardust Dragon, which negates and destroys any card that would destroy a card on the field. And we have Clear Wing Synchro Dragon with two negates. One that negates the effect of any level 5 or higher monster, and one that negates an effect that targets, a monster effect that targets a level 5 or higher monster. So my opponent has developed quite a strong board, and I'm going to have to play through it. Let's see how I respond. Terra Top is immediately negated. This is most likely the correct play in his situation. Alright, I'm going to use Red-Eye Dice to immediately go into my own Clearwing. Use my skill to get Crystal Wing. And set my Compulse. Now at this point, I am in a bad situation. Probably at this point I thought I was going to lose, but I was not really in a hurry to climb at the start of the WCS, so I wasn't in any rush to surrender. Now you might be wondering, if you are not familiar with Speedroids, why I'm not attacking, why I'm not going to go ahead and just attack into either Clearwing or Stardust here. And the reason is, there is a second effect of Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon that you might not be familiar with if you haven't played the deck yet. If this card battles a level 5 or higher monster your opponent controls during damage calculation, this card gains attack equal to the current attack of the opponent's monster it is battling during that damage calculation only. So I am familiar with this. I know this ability very well. And because it has because it has the colon after during damage calculation, that means that it is an activated effect, which means that it can be negated, as opposed to an effect like Dragon Caller Magician, which I don't have a copy of Dragon Caller Magician handy to show you, but there's no colon there, which means that if you attack a monster, if the Xyz monster that you use to make it battles a dragon monster, it just gains attack points without any sort of effect. It doesn't start a chain, so you can't respond to it, which is bullshit. I know, but we're not talking about Dragon Caller right now. I'm just using it as an example to show you that yes, Crystal Wings effect triggers a chain, which is why if I attacked into either his Stardust Dragon or his Clear Wing Synchro Dragon, he could immediately either activate Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon's effect to negate it, or Clear Wing Synchro Dragon's effect to negate the activation of a level 5 or higher monster's effect and destroy it. I am in a very bad position right now. I'm glad that I was able to make a single negate through his negate, but I I'm basically set to lose here. Now, it is my opponent's turn. My opponent misplays twice this round. Just for fun, I'm going to play this part, and I'm going to let you guys watch and try and guess what my opponent did wrong here. Okay, so my opponent uh, summoned a monster, drew a card, and then attacked my Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon, and I immediately um, bounced it back to his hand. And my opponent then ended their turn. So there are two problems with this. The first is if my opponent was not familiar enough with his own deck to think that he couldn't defeat me just because his monsters did not have enough attack points, well, he has a Speedroid Carturbo right here in his graveyard. He has plenty of Speedroids in his graveyard. He could simply banish Carturbo and any other Speedroid from his graveyard to give all of his wind monsters 800 attack points, which would mean that both Stardust Dragon and Clearwing Synchro Dragon would have an additional 800 attack points and could easily defeat Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon in battle. If my opponent is aware of Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon's ability to increase its own attack points, but is somehow not aware that he can negate that effect, then I suppose he made the right choice in not bothering to raise their attack points. The other problem is, obviously, uh, Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon's effect, it says, if this card battles a monster during damage calculation, this card gains attack points. There is no you can here. There is no you may. This effect activation is mandatory. Because of that, if he attacked into me with either his Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon or his Clear Wing Synchro Dragon or his Stardust Dragon, my monster's effect would activate to increase its own attack points. Then he could immediately respond with two negates because he still outnumbers me, and he would be able to destroy my monster. He wouldn't win the duel here because it would be during damage calculation, so my monster would be destroyed and he would not get to replay battle. But he would then recover his Stardust Dragon at the end of the turn and still have three negates to my 0, and I would basically have lost at that point. Because my opponent did not take this step, he sets himself up for a defeat, and we'll take a look at that now. So I know that I am in a good situation at this point, and I immediately go to make Clearwing Synchro Dragon to tie things up in terms of negates. Now we both have three negates, but the types of negates that we have is very important. Okay. All right, so I go into battle and I attack his Stardust Dragon. And my opponent is going to immediately see that I have activated Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon's effect. He can respond to this by negating the activation with Clear Wing. And I respond, and the order of the chain is extremely important. So let's watch this. Okay. He activates his Clear Wing, and I activate my Clear Wing. So I do not activate Crystal Wing's effect to negate his Clear Wing Synchro Dragon. And the reason for that is because Clear Wing has a third effect. It has two negates, but then the third effect is if this card's effect destroys a monster, this card gains attack equal to the destroyed monster's original attack points until the end of the turn. If I used Clearwing Synchro Dragon's effect on Stardust Dragon, which I would be able to do because it says when an effect activates on the field, even though Stardust leaves the field when it activates its effect could still be negated by Clearwing. If I negated Stardust Dragon's effect, I would not destroy the monster because the monster was already in the graveyard when its effect started. but because I negated Clear Wing and destroyed it, I absorb its attack points and then can go for lethal. The order of your effects really matters. My opponent activates Stardust, I chain Crystal Wing, negate Stardust, negate Clear Wing, gains attack points, can't replay the battle, but I have another attack, so I'll attack into his monster, and that's lethal. There you go. My opponent was in an unlosable situation and did not take the appropriate actions. Meanwhile, I was in an unwinnable situation and exploited my knowledge of the deck to overwhelm my inexperienced opponent. Keep that in mind when you're determining what sorts of cards or decks you think are problems, because the difficulty of the deck means that even if it's popular, it might not be all that effective, especially when you get up to the higher ranks. Thank you very much for